You have concept art where you do your storyboarding or you do your pre-art that you do before you go into production, right? It's not like you call everybody on day one and say, hey, just go and dance over there and you start shooting, right? You have concept art that you need to do, where you do, maybe some ideation about what the final product is going to look like. You have pre-visualization, as Abhishek was saying, right, which will give you a better idea of what the final output is going to look like. It gives directors, script writers, even actors a better idea of what is expected out of them. Right, of course, you have production ICVFX and post-production. Now, I've just entered some common tools that are available out there in the market as of today, that most of them are free for everybody to use, right? I would say that you should probably go check this out. For example, for images, I'm sure everybody has used Midjourney, Stable Diffusion, and a lot of them. So what do? They take your text inputs and they convert it into image. I can say, hey, I need a butterfly landing on a flower, right? I can put it in Midjourney. It'll probably give me that. Similarly, we have video generation tools. What are the video generation tools that we have? We have something called Runway ML, which is the most popular, where I can upload an image. I can say, hey, I want this girl's hair to probably, fly around, right? That prompt can be given to Midjourney, no, not Midjourney, to Runway ML. It will generate that and give it to you. Now, if you see in all of these examples that I've put, the very last line I have said, it is open to all, but it does not mean that it is going to replace the effort a human being has to put, right? Maybe VFX or VP or whatever it is, people are actually very, very important. Just because you have AI coming in or AI being the buzzword does not mean that the effort people have to put in goes away. This is just something that will enable people do their work a little faster, right? How calculators are going to help you do your calculation a little faster. All these tools are supposed to do just that. And as of today, none of them are in a mature phase where you can get production ready output from them. Okay, some more tools. Some tools that can probably create 3D models for you. Some tools that will help you with, motion capture, and a few other tools that are used for VFX, right? 3D models, very simple. I give a 2D image or I give a prompt saying that I need a beach ball or I need a flower pot somewhere. You give the prompt or you give a reference image, it will go ahead and create that in the 3D format and give it to you. So you can use this. You can either use it in your VFX pipeline, or if you're talking about virtual production, if the output is really, really good, you can actually take it and have it as a prop in the virtual environment that you're using for virtual production, okay? Motion capture, we all know what motion capture is, right? You have this crazy fancy rig that you put, move your hand, your digital twin somewhere will also move its hand, right? So there are advancements that are available out there. Sony has a really nice motion capture device, which is really tiny, right? You just have to say, it looks like a wristwatch. You just have to keep it here. When you move your wrist, it will understand that you're moving your wrist, right? You don't need to have that crazy a big suit or heavy suit or all those equipments. Now, these are a couple of other companies that are helping you with, motion capture without even the need of having a suit or having a physical device somewhere on your body. Okay, the last one is additional VFX tools, right? So, up until this time, I was talking in general terms of all those tools that are available out there, which will make your life a little easier, right, when you're in this pipeline. So I have 3 words that I've put over there: Photogrammetry, Gaussian splatting, and NeRF. Anybody here knows what they are? As that gentleman has said, photogrammetry is exactly that. You go ahead, you take a picture of a certain object, a certain place from all angles, right? Say, for example, if I want to do a photogrammetry of my face, I take pictures to here, right? So when I do photogrammetry, the thing that I need to remember is that there should be an overlap of images. It cannot be that I take a picture here, and picture here, and expect my face to be rebuilt, okay? So photogrammetry would require you to have at least a 70 or an 80% overlap of the images that are taken. So that makes photogrammetry a little difficult to use in a real sense. Say, for example, I want to scan this particular calendar. I may end up having to take maybe 2,000 or 2,500 photos, right? Because it needs to be entirely proper, right? It's not just a 2D image that you have to take. You'll have to take an image from top, you'll have to take an image from side for it to be rendered properly. Okay, so that is what I have shown in this example, right? If I had to render this particular house, amount of photos that I have to take and the amount of angles in which I have to take photos. If you could go to the next slide. Now, this is where AI and things start getting a little interesting. Okay, now this is what is called Gaussian splatting. So I want you to take a look at that image or that GIF that is running over there for a few minutes, right? So you can see it is an entire cityscape that is generated in a virtual environment. Now, how do they do that? They did it using something called Gaussian splatting. Okay, not exactly Gaussian splatting. I think this company has done it very professionally. So it's a mix of Gaussian splatting, it's a mix of a little bit of photogrammetry, but mostly Gaussian splatting. Now, what does Gaussian splatting do? There also you need images. Okay, I want to create a Gaussian splat of this podium. I need to take images, but maybe not as extensively as photogrammetry. Okay, I'm assuming you all know that the out that is coming from your camera can also have additional information, right? Do you know that? It is not just your RGB or color or the basic information that comes. It also gives you perception of depth. It also tells you what is the angle in which your camera has been positioned. It tells you lens data. Now, for doing Gaussian splatting, you take up that information. You also take the photos that are coming in from the device, and then you create a model out of it. Okay, it is not AI. Gaussian splatting has been around for quite some time. It's been around for 20 years. So the computational power that you would require to do a Gaussian splat is much less than as compared to a lot of other AI models that are available out there. Okay? Now the third one that we want to talk about is something called NeRF. Have you heard of something called NeRF before? No? Okay. NeRF means neural radiance fields. Okay, it is, I would say that it is a much more advanced version of Gaussian splat, right? Now, the example you remember that I told you that to do a photogrammetry of my face, I have to take pictures all the way from here to here with an overlap, right? For Gaussian splatting also, I will have to take maybe not as many images, but a slightly lesser number of images, but with data. But the best thing about NeRF is I can actually create an entire 3D model with minimal number of photos. So this is an image that NVIDIA keeps circulating, right? If you see whatever that earth mover or whatever that thing is, they have used maybe 3 or 4 images in different angles to create this one, right? You can see the reference photos that they've used on top, right? So this is more powerful than, say, photogrammetry or Gaussian splatting. But for us, for our practical use, photogrammetry is still our best bet because you can convert photogrammetric images to 3D models that you can put in Houdini or Blender or maybe Unreal Engine up to some extent, right? That is not possible with Gaussian splats or NeRF, but technology is still advancing. Maybe someday we can make sure that these are also automatically converted to 3D models that can be used in a real life scenario and a real life virtual production pipeline someday. As of today, these are just used to create those static or slightly parallax images that can be used for virtual production. So this is just a very, very short clip of a virtual production that our friends at Kubrick have done. Okay, a very short clip, right? Just to show you what a virtual production can look like. I'm sure that is very obvious from this particular scene that you have seen. The man, the fire, the prop, and also the clothes that are hanging around are actually the real environment. And whatever you see in the background is a virtual environment that came up, right? Very difficult to go and shoot in the night, have so much of clarity, so much of light with minimal effort. So there is this tool called Kubrick that we extensively use, in our production pipeline, which can actually help create those virtual backgrounds. So if you could go to the next slide, please. Right, so this was something that I was doing today morning, just so that I can show it to you. So I have a prompt that I have put here saying, I want to see a scene which has an overgrown jungle with rocks, maybe realistic photography and, whatever 8K image. So it'll take a couple of seconds and we'll see what is the output that is coming up as. Right, so this tool has given me 4 backgrounds in 4 different ways. So if I was a student who had a project to do, or who had, a small clip to be done, say I want to do the sky, right? I'll probably give a prompt over here saying, show me sky with, stars all around, half moon or full moon or whatever, and I can get this particular thing done. And there are different modes in which you can do, right? I'm not happy with the first iteration that came about, so I'm just changing it and getting a next set of images created, right? So this is an application of AI which will essentially help, probably not in the production environment, but for doing your previs or even the art department, this can be extremely helpful. So if you could go to the next slide, I will show you what more can be done, right? So here I have generated an image. Now I'm happy with this one, right? Maybe I want to add birds somewhere flying around, or maybe I want to have a boat and a river in the background. Sorry, not the background, in the bottom of the image. That can be very easily done. I chose an area on top, and I just said, add some birds. Let's see what the output looks like. Right, the first set of birds that came was not nice, but the second, third, and the fourth one are actually in a passable way, right? So more prompts that you give, more feedback that you give the system, the output that you get is going to be a little more better. If you could go to the next one, there is a really nice example that I've added, where you can probably see one man running, and there is a background in behind him, right? Probably a plane crash or something of that sort. You select that, you change the prompt, you can see the different types of outputs that can be generated, right? It's a pretty neat tool. Yes or no? Yes? Okay, cool. Yeah, you can change the background, you can change the city, you can have people running behind him, you can have spiders running behind him, whatever you want it to be like. You can even remove the man from the picture completely if that is what you want to do. I'm sure that a lot of you would have seen this thing happen using traditional VFX, but this is not done using VFX, right? This is just a simple application on my browser that I've opened. I have cleaned up a few parts here and there, and this is the output that I can get. And I'm not even somebody who knows how to do VFX, right? So you can only imagine the power a tool of this sort will have in the hands of somebody who's actually a professional, who knows what needs to be done, right? Who is creative. So it actually reduces his workload by a lot. Okay, let's go to the next screen. So all those things that you saw were pretty cool, right? But you may have not noticed, or you may have noticed, they are still a 2D image, right? I put a camera in front of it, I start moving the camera around. It's very obvious that anybody can see that it's a 2D image, right? Because the image will not move as the foreground is moving. Now, what can AI do? It can actually take you one step ahead. So the first thing that we saw is a 2D image, right? No parallax, static. The next thing is a 2.5D. What is 2.5D? That is what you see in the first image up there, right? First GIF that you see. So it takes the static image, it actually splits it into multiple layers, right? It can have a layer 1, a layer 2, and a layer 3. In this particular example, mountains are layer 2. You have a hut or something in layer 1. You have sky as layer 3. And you can say that when my camera is moving, my layers need to move at a different speed, right? So you get that very neat parallax effect, which is what you see in this second graphic. If you saw the second graphic, or whenever the slide loads again, you can see that when the camera is moving, the hut, the background, and the hills are moving at different speeds. So it gives you a neat effect, right? Similarly, this, yeah. Right? It looks almost as if it's somebody standing there with the camera, but it is just a 2D image that is converted into 2.5D. And the same effect can be seen here, right? What it may look like on an actual virtual production wall, where somebody stands with a camera, they start moving the camera around, the whole scene moves on the big screen, right? Making it very ideal for maybe a production environment or a test shoot, or anything that they want to do with it. Yeah. Same image loaded on a big screen, it is moving around. So you see this neat thing over here? That is a motion control robot, which can be used to control the camera, control the speed. You don't really need those track dollies if you have one of those. Okay, all right, the next one, next slide. So we spoke about virtual production. We spoke about how AI can be used in virtual production for set design, right? How can you generate all those cool backgrounds? How can you remove somebody from the, from the image? How can you add more details to the image and so on and so forth? This is one final application that I would probably want to talk about. So here you see, this is more to do with motion capture, right? If you can play the first image. Okay, you see that a man is running. Now, I want to convert that man into probably a bear that is running, or a dog that, no, not a dog, maybe something with 2 legs, right? Something that is running. So I will have an artist who will come and create that 3D character for me, right? I will have an artist create that 3D character for me, have all the, movements and facial expression and everything created by that artist. Once that happens, I don't have to go ahead and take the trouble of, marking this person who is running, his movements to the movements of the puppet or movement of the character that is drawn, right? AI will take care of that for me. That is what you're seeing in the first one. The second drawing that you're seeing, his facial expressions are matched, right? Again, you have a character where an artist sits and creates that character manually by hand with different expression. Eyebrows are big, he has a surprise expression and whatnot. Now, when an actor is coming and, acting, he does not need all those trackers on his face, right? For the puppet to move exactly like the actor. AI can take care of that also for us. Right? Now again, I keep talking about AI, but AI is not going to take away real jobs because by the end of it, you actually need a person who can do quality check. You actually need a person who will figure out if the output that is coming out is proper or not, right? The third video, please. Third video is also quite similar. I have an actor who is quite tall. This can be a good application for movies like Avatar, right, where you have extremely large characters as compared to a human being size, that is there on the screen. You have a character that you're creating. Now, if you want to make the character a little taller, a little smaller, right? In a traditional environment, 3D artist would have to go back and do the whole setup again, where they have to redraw the entire character, redraw the features and whatnot. Here, it's much easy, right? Using one of these tools, you can actually make the character large or small or fat or, make the changes that you require. Similarly, the last one, a very similar application. The first 3 examples were where one person was being tracked, his motion was being tracked. In the last scene, you can see that I can have multiple characters. So if it's a scene with 5 actors, I can say 2 actors need to be aliens, or 2 actors need to, look a little extra human, right? All that is possible here. Okay? All right. So there are a lot of ethical challenges that comes when you use AI products, right? Say, for example, you go to Midjourney, and I say, I want a drawing like Van Gogh style, right? Technically speaking, you may be infringing an IP somewhere, right? So the ethical implications of AI is something that needs to be ventured into a little more. But at this point of time, let's look at the positives, right? At this point of time, we are looking at AI, or we are looking at all these advancements in a way that can help you, right? It is as good as saying you have a manual car, right? Where the driver needs to concentrate a lot on a lot of other things that are happening. Then you have an automated car. Now you also have a car which does not require a driver. So does that mean that, I'm making the driver useless? Probably not, right? He still needs to be there. It is still serving a purpose of taking a person from point A to point B, but what it is doing is, it is making it a little more comfortable for him. One of the examples that I took over here where, you had to redraw a character to be slightly different, right? Using AI, it is much more simpler. On a regular workflow, that would have taken an artist maybe 2 weeks or 3 weeks to just come up with that, right? So essentially what I believe that essentially what most of these tools are doing is giving a way that creatives can actually explore their creativity a little, little more, a little larger than being bogged down by a lot of human effort that is required to, probably display their creativity. Yeah? Again, overuse of something is actually abuse, right? Yeah. Thank you.